Hi skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com. Today is a video and an article that I know you've all been waiting for. This is our comparison of 2019 men's 90mm skis, 90mm waisted all mountain skis to be specific. Before we jump into it, I want to introduce our new YouTube studio set. Big thanks to everyone who helped make this happen. We've got a couple different kind of scenarios that we can lay out. We'll have some interview style videos coming up, kind of some discussions among a group of people. So you'll see some different stuff get set up on this wall, but we're pretty psyched with it. Pretty cool palette wall and this custom made, handmade Ski Essentials sign. So we're really excited about it. Big thanks to all of you who follow us on YouTube. You're really the reason why this wall has happened, and why our videos continue to improve in quality. So thank you for your engagement and for liking us and following us on YouTube. And I think without further ado, we're just going to jump right into it, because this is 15 different skis, which is more than we've done in the past in these comparison articles. But we thought we'd try and take it to the next level on this one. We are going to run through things fairly quickly because there is a lot of information on all of these skis. So we might skim through some things that you might want more information on. If that does happen, definitely take advantage of our 2019 ski test results. You're going to get a little bit more in-depth information and more kind of anecdotal information on how they ski, more subjective information from that feedback. And then also we have full-length reviews of quite a lot of these skis on Chairlift Chat. So take a look. You'll probably find that there's a more in-depth review of a ski that you're interested in. And if there's not, don't hesitate to ask us any questions or leave a comment on this article or video. So we're going to start over on this end. This first ski that we're going to look at is the Blizzard Brahma. You may notice a trend as I run through these skis, but I actually tried to kind of organize them in not just a sequential way, so we'll kind of jump around a little bit. But the Brahma is an awesome all-mountain ski and definitely an important one in this category. It's been around for a few years now. It did change last year. Basically got a shorter turn radius and a more turned up shovel, slightly lower rise rocker as well. But the biggest or simplest way to describe the Brahma, its main focus, or really maybe not its main focus, but one of its highlighting performance features is its performance on firm snow. The Brahma is quite stiff. It's a wood core and 2 full sheets of metal, and there's also carbon fiber in here as well. All of that kind of adds up to a ski that's pretty stiff, fairly demanding. You want to be at a advanced or expert level as an ability level. You should also be a fairly aggressive skier to really get the most out of the Brahma. It rips high-speed turns on firm snow. It's got awesome stability, awesome edge grip, awesome vibration damping. But on the other end of the spectrum, it can be a fairly challenging ski in ungroomed terrain, soft snow conditions, that kind of stuff. So, if you're really the type of guy that spends like 90% of your time on firm snow, you love skiing fast, you love linking carving turns, you'll probably love the Brahma, and willing to make that sacrifice for a slightly more challenging ski on those occasions that you do get off trail, jump into the moguls, jump into the trees, stuff like that. So Brahma really pretty demanding, but you get that upper echelon firm snow performance, almost like a wide GS ski. Next up is the Volkl Kendo. I think this is a nice one to talk about right after the Brahma because there are a fair amount of similarities. So there's some differences too. This is 90mm underfoot where the Brahma is 88. That's not a huge difference, not really enough to make a performance difference in width there. I will say with the Kendo, it has a longer turn radius, and I'll kind of talk about what that does to it in a second here. But wood core, 2 full sheets of metal, still fairly heavy, still fairly stiff. The shape of the Kendo is a little bit different. It's really quite subtle, but you get a little bit more early taper in the tail, a tiny bit more in the tip, and that combined with the longer turn radius makes it a little bit easier to pivot and maneuver, I think, or really just release the tail edge. The Brahma really likes to hook up and carve, which is awesome, and I think that's one of its highlights. The Kendo will do that, but with the longer turn shape, it doesn't feel quite as responsive, and on the other side, a little easier to foot steer it and kind of kick that tail edge out. So maybe a little easier in soft snow or ungroomed terrain, but still definitely a fairly demanding kind of upper echelon firm snow performance ski that'll still do pretty well in soft snow, but its focus or maybe the highlighting performance characteristic is just that stability, the vibration damping, and kind of its overall feel, edge grip on firm snow. So the Kastle MX 89, I was going to say 84, there is a narrower version of this ski too. There's also a wider version, the MX 99. Kastle skis, they hit a pretty high price tag, but along with that you get a handmade ski. A little rubber tip protector on there we'll get rid of so you can see the real graphic. So handmade ski, so you get kind of, it's tough to describe the feel of a Kastle and how it differs from some other skis, but there is kind of there's something about the handmade aspect of Kastle skis that give it a unique feel. But again, here we've got a wood core and 2 full sheets of metal. That's really the most important thing to consider when you're talking about the MX-89. And then I want to point out the tail shape too. So on the previous 2 skis we looked at, as you know, I mentioned on the Kendo you get a little bit of early taper in the tail. On the MX-89 you can see this flat, really squared off tail, which we will see in some other skis as we go down this line. But what that does to performance is it really gives it a preference to stay through a carving turn. So I would kind of compare this to the Kendo in a similar way that I compared the Brahma to the Kendo. A little bit more preference to continue that carving turn all the way through the turn. And again, these are going to be on the more demanding side, still very capable in softer snow conditions. In fact, something I would say about all 3 of these skis and others as we move forward is that their ability to carve turns through softer snow conditions is kind of one of their highlighting features as a theme. And this ski will do it really well. And, you know, edge grip is awesome, stability is awesome, vibration damping is awesome. On the other end of the spectrum, a little tougher to release that tail edge. So if you're pivoting through trees or moguls, especially at slower speeds, you'll find that it's a little bit easier or a little bit harder to release that tail edge, and really just requires more skier input. So next up, and now we're kind of starting to look at some different construction techniques. This is a pretty cool ski. This is from Liberty. This is the V92. Brand new ski for 2019 and really a brand new direction for Liberty as a company in general. This uses vertically laminated metal. So there's actually 2 metal struts kind of sandwiched vertically between bamboo and poplar. But the idea, the overall concept here is 2 vertical sheets of metal laminated vertically between wood. So instead of a horizontal laminate or 2 horizontal laminates like we've seen in the first 3 skis, you're getting vertical metal. So there's actually less metal in it, but because they're vertically laminated, it actually delivers like really impressive performance. This is one that we were pretty impressed by when we first got on it. Not to say that we're not impressed by those first 3 skis, but just knowing Liberty as a brand and their history as a company, you would not expect the edge grip and power that this ski has. Not quite as responsive and energetic in and out of a carving turn as maybe the Brahma or the MX89, but it's got a really planted, stable feel. Really good connection to the snow. I found awesome. It's a very confidence-inspiring ski, and it's also surprisingly easy to release the tail edge. There's no tail rocker in this ski, and there's really not much early taper back there either, so I can't really attest or give a good reason from a design standpoint why that is. But I think the same reason why you don't feel as much pop out of a turn on this ski is kind of the reason why you can get it to release that tail edge. So in terms of just like blindly mocking through choppy snow conditions, the V92 handles it really well. If you want a little bit quicker edge-to-edge feel, slightly more responsiveness, there are two narrower versions of this ski too. So you can kind of pick and choose. Those are going to feel a little bit more energetic turn to turn. And I will add that it doesn't feel lethargic by any means. It's just got a little bit more of a planted feel, which some skiers will certainly really like. So moving on, and this ski is quite a bit different than the ones we've looked at so far in some sense. Atomic's got some really interesting construction this year. There's metal in this ski, but they take these channels out of the center of the ski, which we've seen similar concepts from other brands. We'll talk about it as we get to some of these other skis. But essentially by positioning those denser, heavier materials along the edge of the ski, you get really good stability, power, edge grip, but the weight of this ski is significantly lighter. So they achieve, even in my hand compared to especially the first three skis, this is noticeably lighter. So what does that mean? When you have a ski that's still relatively stiff, I would say it's just about right there with the Brahma, with any of the skis we've looked at so far in terms of stiffness. When you have a stiff, light ski, it makes it ultra responsive. If you really like that feel of a super responsive ski that takes skier input and uses it instantly, you'll probably really like the Vantage 90 Ti. So what's the analogy I'm looking for? I would say something like Miata to BMW M5. That might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but that's kind of the idea of a ski like this. Because it's lighter, but still has that stiffness and the torsional stiffness, it's going to be very responsive, ultra quick, and I think a lot of skiers are really going to like that. It at least provides an interesting alternative to heavier, stiffer skis for skiers that want that kind of front-side focused feel. And next up is the DPS Cassiar 87 Alchemist. I think this is a great one to talk about after the Vantage 90 Ti there. Essentially kind of the same concept here, but slightly different. DPS is another company kind of focused on achieving a lightweight ski while still delivering good frontside performance. That's relatively new for them as a company. The Cassiar collection in general is relatively new for DPS, and they rely mostly on carbon fiber in this ski for its performance. So again, super light, still a fairly stiff ski. Maybe not quite as stiff as some of the other skis we've looked at so far, but certainly not a noodle by any means. Good torsional stiffness, good responsiveness, good energy, just like a ski like the Vantage 90. A slightly different feel. Carbon is ultra responsive as a material, so you kind of get that immediate reaction to skier input, which is similar to the Atomic, just a slightly different feel. And then I would point out that the tips and the tails on this ski are starting to get a little different. So we have some early taper in the tail, and some early taper in the tip as well. So it does kind of two things to the ski. It helps smooth out turn initiation, so it's easier to kind of just tip the ski on edge and let it engage a turn on its own. It takes a little bit less skier input, and it also kind of boosts maneuverability in ungroomed soft snow conditions. So as a mogul ski, compared to, I'll go ahead and say it, everything we've talked about so far, easier to release the tail edge on a ski like this, which kind of, get it to pivot at slow speeds is kind of the concept that I'm referring to. A little bit easier when you have more of a slight rockered, early tapered tail. Moving right along, this is the Salomon XDR 88 Ti, which I think is a great transition from the skis that we've talked about thus far. The XDR 88 Ti is a really cool ski, uses a combination of materials. Salomon's CFX fiber is carbon and flax that's woven together. And there's also a partial metal laminate in the ski that kind of tapers as it reaches the tips and the tails. This is another ski where I would describe the flex a little bit softer than some of the skis that we've talked about so far. And I think it handles tight terrain slightly more easily than especially some of those stiff, heavy skis that we talked about. And again, you're making trade-offs anytime you do something like that to performance. So where a ski like the Brahma, we'll go all the way back to the Brahma, just holds an edge super, super well. Unbelievable stability, vibration damping, edge grip. It's all like right up there with race skis. You don't get quite that level out of the XDR Ti, but for most skiers, you're not going to overpower this ski. You're not going to push it past its limits in terms of edge grip on firm snow. And on the other end of the spectrum, you get a little bit easier performance in kind of the softer snow conditions. I've always thought this was a good mogul ski. They made it a little stiffer for this season, but I don't really think it took away from its performance in that ungroomed terrain. So if you're kind of a mogul skier type guy, you'd probably love the XDR. You'd probably also love the Cassiar. Plenty of options as you're going to see for somebody who wants to ski a lot of different terrain. The Experience 88 Ti from Rossignol, definitely another one that I would put in that category alongside the XDR and maybe even the Cassiar in terms of its versatility. Rossignol really changed this ski for 2019. Brand new tip shape that's kind of borrowed from their Freeride 7 series skis like the Soul 7 and the Sky 7. And then new technology in the construction too. Quite similar to what we see from Liberty. There's a centered vertical strip of metal in the Experience 88 Ti. And what I like about what they did to this ski, if you remember the previous version of this ski, really didn't have much rocker. Technically they said it did, but it really didn't have much at all. And it had no early taper. So this ski has quite a bit of early taper. So the shape overall has changed. And with those changes to the shape, you might think that it comes along with less firm snow performance than the previous version. But I think these changes to construction, this is something that we talked about in the full review of this ski. I think the changes to this ski retain its performance on firm snow, but just give it that much easier performance in soft, ungroomed snow. Really, really fun in powder. I think the tip shape the tip's kind of providing the performance that I feel when I'm in soft snow in this ski. This tip likes to stay on top of the snow a little easier. There's a little bit more tail rocker in this than some of the other skis we've looked at. Not substantial amounts of early taper in the tail, but it's still pretty easy to release the tail edge. So it's again, this is kind of getting to skis with very even mixes of performance characteristics. Fantastic one ski quiver for somebody who likes to ski everything on the mountain, doesn't really want to feel held back. And I think you could say that about the XDR as well. So now we're going to move to the other side of the sign here and kind of continue the same trend. The Dynastar Legend X 88. This is a really interesting ski and one that I like to... I make myself think about this ski and recommend it to people more than I thought I would. This is unique in the sense that it uses more early taper than anything on this wall, arguably as much rocker, maybe not quite, but a lot of rocker in this ski as well, and it's got 2 sheets of metal. So what does that do to a ski? You get, if you go back to the first part of this video and the performance benefits we were talking about in those first skis, stability, vibration damping, just raw power, you get it out of this ski, but because of that shape, it's also a little bit more maneuverable. So, who would this be best for? Say you're a really aggressive skier or a heavier skier, a pretty big guy, and you feel like you need that stability and the benefits of 2 sheets of metal, but you don't want it to be that hard to release your tail edge. Maybe you're still the type of guy, even though you feel you need that 2 sheets of metal, you still want kind of more of the even mix of performance characteristics. You want to ski some trees, you want to ski some moguls, you want to ski a little bit of everything. I think the Legend X88 is great for that type of skier. And again, to me, it's unique in the sense that it uses, I'm going to go ahead and call it 5-point side cut. They don't list it as 5-point side cut, but it almost is. In the sense that this early taper is very pronounced, and then you get those 2 sheets of metal. Moving right along, the Navigator 90 is a really interesting ski, and I think probably one, you could say this about a lot of skis on this wall, one that deserves more attention than it gets. I think the Legend X88 is another good example of a ski that I would say that about. So Navigator 90, ski definitely belongs in this category, but where does it sit? So Nordica has done some interesting things with these skis. The tip shape is borrowed from the Enforcer collection, which we're going to get to, another important ski for this category. The tail shape, on the other hand, and you'll remember when we were talking about more flat, squared off tails, this is more inspired by their race skis, the Doberman collection. So if you remember going back to the MX89, it's not quite as squared off as the MX89, but it's pretty squared off compared to a lot of these skis. So this ski loves to finish a carving turn. There's not really any tail rocker in it, a little bit of rise out of the tail, but not much. That little bit is helping you to release your tail edge when you want to. But fantastic carving ski. It's also one of the shorter turn radius out of all of these skis. So if you're really into that kind of quick, almost slalom turn, something I said in the written portion of the article is I would describe this ski almost like an Enforcer and a slalom ski had a child. That's kind of what it feels like when you're skiing it, but you can do that through just about any conditions, which you would not be able to do on a slalom ski. Construction of this ski is pretty unique. Kind of going back to some of those skis that use partial metal laminates instead of the dual layers of metal like we saw in some of these skis. This is the Hex Titanium Bridge from Nordica. So maybe tough to see, but you can actually see it in the graphic pretty easily in person. Nordica removes essentially hexagonal shapes from the sheet of metal in this ski. So that's removing weight and still retaining the feel, the overall feel that you get from a horizontally laminated ski or piece of metal. So it's still a very smooth ski, really good vibration damping, not quite at the level of those skis with 2 sheets of metal, not quite the same ability to just kind of tank through snow, so slightly less stability, but it's lighter. I think that's an important characteristic for a lot of skiers. It's more forgiving than a lot of those skis with 2 sheets of metal. If you're kind of in that category where you're maybe focusing a little bit more on groomer performance, but you don't want it to be drastically challenging when you get off trail into firm or into soft snow. Maybe you're more intermediate to advanced level skier and you're worried about the skier input or the level of technique that it takes to kind of manipulate a stiff, heavy ski like that with a flat tail. The Navigator 90 is a fantastic choice. I think the ski is just a lot of fun, and it's a refreshing ski in the sense that it does a lot of things well, not overly demanding, and just a fun. I think the shorter turn shape is part of the reason why it just gives it a fun feel. So, Pinnacle 88 from K2. This is a really cool ski. Maybe the first thing you notice about this ski is the tip shape, and the Pinnacle 88 is arguably, well, without measuring them or putting them all right next to each other, and they're all slightly different lengths, so that would be somewhat challenging, but possibly the longest tip rocker out of any of these skis on this wall. So if you remember what we were saying about the Experience 88, that tip shape and what it does to soft snow performance, you can really say the same thing about the Pinnacle 88. So I put this ski in the category or the range for a skier who likes to ski everything. Going back to the Atomic Vantage, K2 does similar construction by positioning metal along the edge of the ski. They're not carving out channels, so you're not getting quite the same weight savings in the Pinnacle 88, but you get, essentially you're getting the performance benefits of metal when the ski is on edge, and then a little bit more forgiving ski when you're skiing it flatter, pivoting the ski, maneuvering the ski through moguls, trees, that kind of stuff. Definitely a super versatile ski. If you're shopping in this category and you're only planning on buying one pair of skis and you're the type of skier that likes to ski a little bit of everything, the Pinnacle 88 should definitely be on your list. Enforcer 93. This is an important one and a popular one in this category for sure. What I was just saying about the Pinnacle 88 and its ability to ski just about everything on the mountain, you can absolutely say that about the Enforcer 93, and I think that's what's made it a pretty popular ski. But remember, 2 full sheets of metal in this ski. They're thinner sheets of metal than a lot of what we've looked at, but they're still 2 sheets of metal. So it's fairly heavy. Its shape allows it to pivot and smear turns a little bit easier than, say, something like the Brahma. And on the other end of the spectrum, it doesn't quite have the groomer power as, again, I'm going back to that end of the spectrum, the Brahma or the MX89, those skis that really deliver like a GS ski type feel. Not quite that level of groomer performance, but pretty darn close. And then a more forgiving ski in soft snow compared to a lot of those skis with 2 sheets of metal. So again, there's trade-offs there. And I would say this is another one that's kind of, if you're buying one pair of skis, or if the ski that you ski most of the time, you want it to be able to do everything on the mountain, the Enforcer 93 is a great option. But again, I want to remind you or re-emphasize that there are a lot of skis that can go into that category. And because there's so many options out there right now, you know, you get the ability, you can say, hey, am I more of a Cassiar type guy? Maybe I want it to be a little lighter. Maybe I want a little bit more heft to my skis. Maybe I'll go Experience 88 so I can get that vertical strip of metal. Maybe you could keep going. Maybe you're all the way up to the level where you feel like you need those 2 sheets of metal and you still want a very versatile ski. That's where the Enforcer 93 comes into play. We got 3 more. I think we can finish this out. So next up is the Blizzard Rustler 9. This is a really cool ski, brand new for 2019. You may have seen our full review on it, which you may have seen our full review on a lot of these skis. But this is really interesting. Again, if you go back to my concept of some of these skis are designed for a little bit of everything. Some of them, the manufacturers are gearing them a little bit more soft snow here, firm snow there. I think it's natural that we have to compare this ski to the Brahma. So the Brahma is 2 full sheets of metal, mostly camber, a little bit narrower. The Rustler 9 is either 92 or 94 millimeters underfoot, depending on what length you get. It's wider in the longer lengths. It uses partial metal, much more rocker, and more early taper as well. So if you've been following along, you already know that this ski is more soft snow oriented than the Brahma. Now, again, if you're the type of guy that you don't really feel like you want to be switching skis all the time and you want like an even mix of performance characteristics in one pair of skis, you could argue that this is slightly more versatile than the Brahma in the sense that you can take it into trees, take it into moguls, take it into soft snow. I skied this on like an 8-inch powder day and it actually did really well. more versatility out of the Brahma. Now, are you sacrificing anything? Yes, of course, which is kind of a theme through all of this. It's what you want to give up to get, and what you want to focus on as a skier. So not quite the same just stability, edge grip, power as a ski like the Brahma. But something that I've mentioned about this ski before is I actually think it feels a lot like the Brahma right underfoot. So if you can kind of focus your skiing and focus on delivering power right underfoot when you're on firm snow, and then kind of engage the tips and tails, that might sound silly. But to me, it's got a lot of the Brahma feel right underfoot, and then the different tips and tails make it significantly more, well, yeah, fairly significantly more versatile or more forgiving in soft snow conditions. So the QST 92 from Salomon, this is another one that I kind of is following the same trend as a ski like the Rustler 9 compared to the Brahma. Here we've got the XDR 88 and then the QST 92 from Salomon. I think just another cool ski to kind of put in this category and talk about the differences. Similar construction concept, to be honest, as the XDR, focused on carbon fiber and flax. But this ski is lighter overall than the XDR, a little bit easier to throw around, and then its shape is also, again, geared more towards soft snow. So longer rocker in the tip, more early taper, a little bit longer rocker in the tail. So all of these things and the extra width give it just better soft snow performance. So this is kind of one where between the XDR and the QST 92, and we get this question a lot, which would be more for me. I think you can just kind of drill it down to, do you spend more time on groomers? Probably XDR. Or do you spend more time off groomers? Probably QST 92. Very, very playful ski. I love the way that this ski kind of transitions from different snow conditions. I think it's got a lot to do with the flax. The flax actually boosts its vibration damping, which really, really helps. And definitely a cool ski if that's kind of what you're after. If you want a relatively lightweight ski that's somewhat playful, and that doesn't mean that it can't carve turns on firm snow. You don't get the GS ski feel of some of those skis with 2 sheets of metal, but it can still do it. It'll take a lot. You'd have to really put a lot of power and skier input into it to really feel like you're not holding an edge, to the point where you feel unstable on it. So I think a great ski for a lot of people, especially skiers that kind of prefer that playful feel. And to round things out here, the Core 93 from Head. I think this is another important one in this category. Definitely one where I would say the width and the shape of this ski, kind of like the last 3 skis we've talked about, we're starting to look more towards soft snow performance with this ski than firm snow performance. The Core 93 is actually still fairly stiff. Head uses a combination of graphene and choroid and carbon and Karuba wood in this ski. That actually achieves a impressive lightweight, but it still delivers a pretty stiff ski. So you actually get fairly good groomer performance out of this ski, a reasonable amount of power, not quite the vibration damping as a ski with 2 sheets of metal, but it's really similar. It's a pretty impressive construction from Head, and I think people are starting to notice that impressive construction, but it's kind of between, this is one that people always want to compare to the Enforcer 93, and between the two, pretty similar skiers, but I would say the Core 93 is more if you're focused or value a lightweight ski. Not a drastic difference in weight between the two, but over a long day of skiing, you're going to feel it, and it's kind of a question of whether you want it to feel a little lighter on your feet, a little quicker, or more stable, more damp, kind of that planted to the snow, smooth feel. But really cool ski. I think a lot of people are glad that Head increased the core line to include the 99. So check out the 99 if you're interested in that construction, but want a wider ski. So that's it. That's 15 kind of around 90 millimeter waist all mountain skis. Again, I feel like I rushed through this, even though I'm quite sure this video will exceed 20 minutes in length. But if you want us to circle back around to any of these skis, definitely leave a question in the comments in the video or on the article itself. Again, we invite you to check out our full-length reviews or the ski test feedback from all these skis. There's a lot more information about each one of these skis on our website, so take a look at that. Hopefully you can kind of use this video as a guide to then go do a little more research, or maybe on the other end of the spectrum, maybe you've done some research thus far, and this video hopefully is confirming kind of your thoughts and opinions of what's right for you. We're going to do more of these. Next week we're going to do the 100 millimeter men's all mountain ski category. After that we'll kind of circle back around to women's skis. We're going to hopefully cover 90 millimeter, 100 millimeter front side skis, free ride skis, really as many as we can, kind of between now and let's say early mid-December. So you'll see more of these comparison articles, and if there's a ski that you know we have that you want to see us talk about in the next one, you can let us know. Leave a comment on this article and we will try and get to it. Some of our staff is down at Killington today, which is really exciting. They're testing the DPS Phantom wax, which is, it shouldn't even call it wax at all. It's waxless glide technology. We're going to have some videos and articles on that too. So most importantly, we're officially back on snow, which is really exciting. Anytime we're getting on snow here at Ski Essentials, we're really excited about it because we are, after all, gear for skiers by skiers. So again, here are 15 90 millimeter all mountain skis. Let us know if you have any questions, and we will see you on the slopes.